Hi, this is Duckphone. So today we're going to be playing Total War Warhammer 2, which is a Total War is a series by Creative Assembly, and they create a lot of different historical games, strategy games where you control armies and have campaigns on this grand map. So like games you may have heard of from them are like Total War Medieval, Total War Shogun, Total War Rome, a lot of different games like that. This, however, is set in the fantasy Warhammer universe. It's a very fun pairing, if I don't say so myself. It's kind of a complicated game. It's a strategy game, kind of complex. Definitely not for everyone. I enjoyed immensely. I'm going to be doing this campaign series as if you're new to the game, so it's going to be pretty slow if you're familiar with it. I'm going to be explaining things kind of in depth as I go. However, this is slightly modded, which means it's not the vanilla game. It's not the game that the developers put out just by itself. There's a couple of gameplay extras I've thrown in there just because for fun. However, the mods aren't like huge overhauls. Most of them are quality of life, but anytime a gameplay mod comes up, I'll point it out and explain it a bit. So yeah, this is the Total Warhammer, the Total War Warhammer 2 main menu. You know, the fact that it's called Total War Warhammer, I get why they do it because of brand name, but man, it's kind of a awkward name. We're going to go to new campaign, and from there we have a choice of Eye of the Vortex or Immortal Empires. Basically, it's just two different types of campaigns. This one doesn't have everything, but it's sort of a more focused story campaign. We're going to be doing the one that has all the races, all the factions, and I'll kind of explain all this as we go, so you don't have to really understand exactly what's going on at the moment. But yeah, all the races, all the factions on the big map. It's a fantasy game, so there's going to be like orcs and dwarves and elves and stuff like that. It's a very fun setting, kind of a ridiculous setting, but that's okay. Warhammer is just kind of ridiculous in general. So, Mortal Empires, it gives us this big list, a very long list. Um, there's a bunch of different factions or races, however you want to put it, and each of those factions they have different legendary lords. You know, people in the stories that are famous and like maybe leaders or famous generals, whatever, in these stories. Depending on the faction you choose, will give you different like faction effects, which we don't need to go over. And the lord that you choose will give you different effects as well. We're going to be playing as Gor-Rok today. Gor-Rok is a relatively new addition to the game. He came out with the latest DLC for the game, The Hunter and the Beast. He was the free lord that everyone gets with the update, which was nice of them. They put out free lords every now and then. He is definitely one of my favorites. He is basically a beefy boy. He, he's very stalwart. He stands his ground. He doesn't have any special mounts. Just runs around on foot. But he is a very healthy lizard. He starts in sort of the corner of the map. A lot of lizardmen start in the corner because that's where the jungles are. One thing I want to point out before we start, because this is where one of my mods comes in. One of the mods that I'm using changes a bit of the faction effects when for each legendary lord. Normally it's buffing the weaker ones. It doesn't really change the strong ones too much. He hasn't been changed really much at all because he was already pretty good. But there are some weaker factions that this mod buffed up a bit. Full mod list is in the description, so you can check that out. I'll even include the quality of life mods that I'm using. It'll be the full mod list. So I'm going to be playing on hard difficulty. There are the difficulties are easy, normal, hard, very hard, legendary. I am not. I'm okay. I've played the game a lot, but I'm not actually like that good. Hard is probably I could maybe do very hard, but I'm also trying not to. I'm trying to play this campaign out and not lose it right away to some sort of surprise. The game can be kind of hard if you aren't careful. Battle difficulty is going to be normal. Again, I'm not crazy good at the game, so And let's go ahead and start. So I guess we could read this if I can read it in time. Gor-Rok has been roused from his motionless state and once again girded with his fine ceremonial armaments. A rash of recent incursions into Lustria has forced the hand of Itza's mage priests, who ordered the temple city's greatest champion stirred into action. With conflict now looming, the unflinching anchor of Itza's battle lines descends from his pyramid chamber high above the first city's concourses with only one intention: to wage unrelenting war against the enemies of the Lizardmen. Um, Gor-Rok is essentially like the people's champ. He is a when it comes to Lizardmen, he is bigger, stronger, better in general. Um, he is a guardian of the Lizardmen's most sacred city, I believe. Oh, I think this guy's gonna speak now.
Rise, great white lizard. The children of Itza are in need of your martial might, for the enemies of Lustria encroach upon sacred land. The Skaven of Pestilence lurk around Ashlotl, threatening to unleash a virulent attack upon your most important temple city, Itza. They must be exterminated. The twisted, dark elf admiral, known as Lokia Fellheart, has also landed on our shores, seeking to pillage holy sites. To the south is the baleful plague lord, Skrok. The Skaven are a common enemy of you and the dwarfs, but it remains to be seen whether the Dawi will march from the safety of their mountain holds. You are a creature wholly purposed for war, mighty one. War which you must bring to all invaders, for you are the rock upon which Itza's enemies shall be broken.
He is the Rock. He is the Dwayne Johnson of the Lizardmen. People's champ. So, we don't need to read this because I will explain it. So, again, I'm going to be doing this kind of slow. So, if you're familiar for the game, if you're familiar with the game, it's going to be slow for you. Sorry. Right now, we see the campaign map. Campaign map is where you have your armies, like his army right here. You see Gor-Rok, he's a legendary lord, and he has some soldiers, some with spears, some with shields, and then he's got some skinks, which we'll talk about in a moment. You also have heroes, which can join your armies and fight with your lords, and you know they're cool units in and of themselves, but they can also be like agents on the map, you know, assassinating targets, damaging buildings, stuff like that. And you can, you know, zoom out to give you an idea of the scale. So right now, this is, you know, where my army is. This is my capital city, Itza, right here. And we've got land over here. We got a mountain pass right here. Over here, we got the coast. Up here, more jungle, till we get to the northern coast. And then you have this little landmass that leads further up until you get to the snow up here, and then basically keep on going. A lot of snow, a lot of mountains, different races, and there's the other corner. You have the big island of Ulthuan. That's where the High Elves are. Then you've got all this over here. This is the other corner of the map, and then keep on going all the way down here, and oh my gosh, it's a big map. So what is the goal for us this campaign, just so we can keep that in mind? There are objectives that the game gives you. There are short campaign victories, which, you know, it still takes a while, but they give you different things that they want you to do, and if you do it, you get the short campaign victory. And then there's the long campaign victory, which is more intense. However, I suggest when you play the game, you can worry about these if you want. We're going to worry about them because, you know, just kind of play it how it's meant to be played. But I'm also going to have some personal goals to set. One of them is because I just want to do it just sort of for flavor reasons. I'm trying to craft a narrative with this campaign, at least. I'm not going to do any save scumming, which is when you like save, and then if you lose, you reload the save. I'm not going to do that. You know, if I lose, it'll just be part of the story. So one of the things I want to do is I want to unite all of the jungle of Lustria under one Lizardman banner. If I have to go to war with the other Lizardmen, so be it. They will all follow Gor-Rok. And I'm not going to be like trying to take over the world. Rather, I'm just going to want to stay in the jungle for the most part. And then if I need to deal with somebody, rather than going out and conquering new lands, I'm going to try to go out and like send expeditions. You know, send my armies on big military quests to kind of deal with the enemies I need to deal with, do what they need to do. But I'm not going to be colonizing the world. One reason for that is so you guys don't have to see me spend a ton of time on empire management, because the more land you have, the more time that'll take. So, well, I should probably be keeping track of time. I'm going to do that right now. This first episode's probably going to be a little longer than my other ones will. So let's go ahead and do a stopwatch right here. Okay. In the upper right hand corner where my camera is, there's buttons, but they're mostly like menu buttons. It's not. I don't really need to show you those. For the most part, I'm going to try to do this more as I go, but this first turn I'm going to explain a lot, just because so we can all be kind of on a good starting point. All right. So next thing I'm going to talk about is this right here. You see my treasury, 5,000 gold, and I'm getting 1,565 every turn. That can go up or down depending on your territories and how many units you have and stuff like that. You know, pretty self-explanatory. And over here, we have missions and quests. We have 0 right now. We have events, tell you like different events in the world. We have our lords and our heroes, has a tab of everything. Got provinces, we see all our provinces and like, how much gold they're making. You can manage it from here. And known factions. So we'll go over who we know right now. We know the Cult of Sotek, which is another Lizardman faction, led by a legendary lord. Some of the factions on the map, like the Spine of Sotek Dwarfs, are not led by a legendary lord. They're what's called a minor faction. There's major factions, minor factions. These guys, minor factions increase the diversity of the map, but they're not playable. They're like small little enemies or allies you could have during your story, during your campaign. We also have the Skaven. Skaven are the rat people. Disgusting Skaven. There's a couple of them here. We have a minor faction, Clan Mange, and then Clan Pestilence. Clan Pestilence is a major faction. Those are the factions we know right now. If we double click on a faction, it takes us to the diplomacy menu. So we can see this Lizardman right here. We can see that he's friendly with us. He likes us because we're Lizardmen. And you can see who he's at war with, who I'm at war with, yada, yada, yada. We could ask for a non-aggression pact, which means, hey, I'm not going to attack you, you're not going to attack me, right? He has accepted it. So he's like, yeah, sure, let's not be at war with each other. If I decide to go at war with him later, I'll want to make sure to cancel the peace treaty a decent amount of time before I actually declare war, because if I don't, then the world will be mad at me, because that'll be kind of like backstabbing kind of behavior. All right, so that's like an example of diplomacy, right? It's not too complicated. I should probably actually bring this up since I was here. Other things you see on this are like different traits they have. It also shows their strength rank. The lower the number, the stronger they are, because it's ranking them in order. So he is the 8th strongest faction in the world right now. There are, I don't know the exact number, but there's probably over 100. Well, maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe around 100 factions in the game at the start. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot of different factions. So him being number 8 means pretty strong at the start. I am 56, so you will also see that my reliability right now is very high. That's where where I was talking about. If I go to war with them when I have a peace treaty or if I just canceled it, my reliability will drop and people will, you know, be upset with me. Um, all right. So that's kind of a quick overview of the diplomacy menu. Um, so one thing to know about the Warhammer world is that just a very basic like overview of the factions is that there are factions of there are like good guys and bad guys essentially, and the good guys are more likely to align with other good guys. Bad guys, well, sometimes they'll team up, but bad guys generally are just bad guys by themselves. Um, and so that does play into the diplomacy of it. Like certain factions may like you more or less, dependent on how much they like you in the lore in the Warhammer world. So that does come to play. So for example, the Lizardmen generally hate Skaven. So having a Skaven Lizardman military alliance, it can happen, but it is weird. And generally, I'm going to be trying to role play that as best I can. I'm not going to be like looking for weird alignments. At the same time, that doesn't mean that the good guys are always friends with each other. A lot of the good guys don't trust each other, even if they have similar-ish goals. Um, that doesn't mean that they aren't warring with each other a lot. They, you know, there's a lot of distrust. One of the things that happens is eventually a chaos invasion happens. Think of it like these are like the chaos are like the big bad guys that the rest of the world has to be like, oh wait, we got to deal with this now. This is a problem, and we should probably deal with this before we go back to attacking each other. And that will also be shown in the diplomacy. Um, so this button right here talks about our faction effects, which I'll go over. I'll go over right now. What the hell? So our faction, we can see him again right here, gives us the right of resilience, which I'll talk about in a bit. We start the campaign with the control of Lord Croak. Now, Lord Croak, oh, Lord Croak. He is a mummified dead frog wizard. Warhammer can be ridiculous. So, here he is right here. You can kind of see him as he's got his little mask. He is dead. His spirit is in there, and his spirit is still very powerful with magic and can cast spells, but he is dead. He's mummified. He is a special Lizardman unit that normally other Lizardman factions have to go out of their way to get access to. I start the campaign with him, which is very strong because he's a very powerful wizard. So that's one of the main reasons you play Gor-Rok, because you start with this guy. And in the story, it makes sense because Gor-Rok's like his defender or something like that. I don't know. It's something along those lines. All right, back to these. We also can have a recruit rank +3 for Saurus Scar veterans. That just means that Saurus Scar veteran is another hero unit. And when we recruit them, they're basically better trained. That's all that means. Upkeep -20% for Saurus units. Saurus are the basic general soldiers of our army, and that just means that they're cheaper for us. We don't have to pay as much every turn to keep them in the army. And then Untainted +3 all regions. One of the things that is in this game is corruption. Sometimes Chaos or Skaven or Vampires will corrupt the lands around them, and also maybe your lands if you're next to them, and the more corruption there is, the harder it is for you to work with. Your people will get corrupted, the land gets corrupted, and it's hard to travel through. Untainted just fights corruption, so he doesn't like corruption. He fights against corruption. So those are our faction effects. I think the only modded thing is the Untainted, so he doesn't change too much. All right. Back to... Let me check something real quick. Right here, making sure I'm not leaving out any mods. I will mention a mod, since I was in the diplomacy. I do have a mod that removes the player bias in the game. There's some bias to either avoid or engage the player, sometimes arbitrarily, so I have a mod that gets rid of that. All right. I think that's the only mods I need to talk about right now. Okay, so moving on. So we're done with these buttons. This is the campaign map. Right here, we've got the Geomantic Web. This is like almost all Lizardmen share this thing. It's not like the biggest. It's their faction effect, but it's not like the biggest or most interesting out of faction effects. Basically, the Lizardmen want to take certain cities to increase the strength of their magical web that like binds these cities together. And if you get this web over your cities, you get better effects. But yeah, we can get more in depth about that later. So right here are rites, special like ceremonies that factions can do, and they're different for generally depending on what faction you're playing or even what lord you're playing. So one of the things Gor-Rok has is the Rite of Resilience. It's a special rite that replaces the normal Lizardman rite, and you spend gold to do it. It lasts for a certain amount of turns. That goes on cooldown for a certain amount of turns, and it gives you certain effects. And like some are more expensive, 12,000 for this one, but you spawn an army of dinosaurs, so you know it's why it's expensive. And so anyway, these are rights. We'll do these occasionally, and I'll explain more about them when I do them. Right here is the technology button, where you're going to do all your research. This looks really imposing, I will say. You can hover over it and see what they do. We'll kind of explain it as I research it. I'm going to try to do this slowly. Diplomacy, another way to get to the diplomacy screen. Nothing we haven't seen before there. And objectives I talked about. Settings, blah, blah, blah. All right. So this button, anytime you have something that the game thinks you should resolve before your end turn, it'll tell you. And then when it thinks you've resolved everything, it will tell you to end turn. Generally, you don't want to rely on this too much. You want to actually, like, you know, just cycle through your buildings and armies. And if you want to skip a notification, that's that button right here. I think that's pretty much the entire user interface, except for the things under my face cam. Which again, they're like menu buttons and things like that. It's not a big deal. So I think that's everything I need to talk about before we actually start playing, and then I will continue to teach as we move. So we have, after we survey our situation, we have this little hammer icon because we have building upgrades available on Itza. There's a lot of information you see here, which I'll go over right now. This is our income. This is our public order. If we're taxing our population, and also because the difficulty level minuses it a bit more. If it ever gets to negative 100, I'll have a revolt, and I have to either squash the revolt, or they will eventually maybe take over the city, and I lose it. So we want to keep track of public order. This is corruption. There's Chaos, Corruption, Vampiric, or Skaven. It's showing Skaven because that's what's around me. And Skaven Corruption is going up by 1%. As of right now, I'm at 100% untainted, so I don't have any corruption at the start of the game. But since Skaven Corruption is going up, this will probably drop to 99, by next turn, right? And then it has your garrison size. These icons right here. So this shows what the climate is. The climate is jungle, which is a suitable climate for the lizardmen. If we go back to this, we can see that there are suitable climates, unpleasant climates, and uninhabitable climates. Suitable climates for lizards are the savanna, the desert, and the jungle. It makes sense. Unpleasant for them is temperate, mountain, magical forest, and temperate island. It just means that when we settle in these types of places, it's not going to be as easy of a time settling there. And then uninhabitable is wasteland, frozen, ocean, and chaotic wasteland. That doesn't mean we can't settle there, it's just a lot harder. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're playing the game. And, okay. Right here, anytime you see this icon, strategic location icon, it basically means that the city is of special importance to a certain faction. It is of importance to us. We can build special buildings here rather than just we can build the normal ones, but we can also build a special one. This right here, golden idols, it's a resource. So like over here we can see timber. It's a resource. Some settlements will have resources, and you can build resource buildings. Talk about one of my mods. I have a mod that overhauls the bonuses you get from resource buildings. I find them generally a little too weak in the vanilla game, so that's why I have the mod. Down here, so we have the overview. It'll show Itza, but it also shows Subatun and Axlal. I can't pronounce it. The narrator pronounced it in the beginning. Anyway, I'll probably just pronounce it as Axlotl. These two are on the screen as well because they're part of a province. So there's settlements and there's provinces. Settlement is something like Subatun, Axlotl, and Itza. A province is the combination of all three of them. Some provinces may be only one settlement. Some may be 4 settlements. In a province, there's always going to be a major settlement, and there may be some minor settlements. So in this province, we have the major settlement being Itza, but we also have 2 minor settlements. Since we have a major settlement and minor settlements, they all kind of, if you capture all of them, you get extra bonuses if you hold an entire province. As well as buildings are shared between them. So, for example, this building right here allows me to recruit some more Saurus spears and Saurus warriors, right? So Saurus warriors with clubs or with spears. If I were to build this building, if I captured Subatun and I built this building there, as long as I'm in the province, I can recruit the soldiers from anywhere in the province. It's all shared. So it's really nice to unite your provinces because you have you basically add more slots for buildings. You can see there's like certain amount of slots here. Right now, my building level is only my settlement level is only level 1, which means I only have 2 slots. These 2 are locked until building level 2. Building level 3 will unlock 2 more, then building level 4 will unlock 2 more, and then I shouldn't say building level, settlement level. And then settlement level 5 will unlock the last one. And minor settlements only go up to settlement level 3. Major settlements go up to settlement level 5. Oh, the cats are wrestling. Oh, come on. They do it for fun, but it's funny that they're doing it right here, right now. You guys okay? Tackle them. All right. So, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, settlements. So, we want to basically capture Subatun and Axlotl as well. Right here, we can upgrade our settlement already. Upgrading a settlement costs gold, and it also costs population. Basically, what that means is that the city needs to take time for people to move in, settle down, and grow that way. So you can see here that we have a population surplus of 1, so it's sort of like we have 1 population in the bank, you can think of it that way. And there are 38 turns until we get another population. And it gets harder and harder to get more population. That being said, you can increase how fast you gain population by adding growth. And if we upgrade the settlement, our growth will go from +10 to +20. And also, there's a lot of other things here that, not a big deal. But anyway, our growth goes up so we get more population so we can grow it faster. Along with that, there are buildings you can build, like this skink foraging camp, that also adds more growth. Generally, you do want to build growth buildings early on to increase your settlement's, growth rate. Make the cities grow bigger, faster, stronger. So, first turn, we do have gold to spend, and I'm perfectly fine with paying 2,000 gold in the population to get this upgraded to make our city level, our settlement level 2. It'll take 3 turns to do that. If we want to cancel it, we just click it again, right, and we get refunded. So you can always just cancel recruitment and buildings. Really easy just like that. As for what to build next, I could do some growth, which I'm definitely considering, just to make it go as fast as possible. We can't really do any defense buildings or any advanced military buildings. We can do basic military buildings, but we could build our resource. Generally, I will say you want to build the growth building. In this case, I would say you want to build the resource, because an extra 300 gold a turn is very useful. That's very good. To give you an idea, the normal money-making building at level 1 for us, that's not, it's just one you can build in any settlement, gives us 180, so an extra 120 gold. We'll be rolling in dough. These are the special buildings which we can't build for a while. So this also produces trading resources. If we want to trade with other civilizations, we can do that. And it also lowers the recruitment costs for some of our units. So we'll go ahead and construct that too, 3 turns as well. And you can see, like, we can't upgrade this building, even though we have the gold, because it requires a level 2 settlement, right? A general rule of thumb is that since the settlements in a province share buildings, if I build a military building, so let's say I built, so let's cancel this for now. Let's say I wanted to build this building, right? To get some skinks, some skink warriors. It goes up to settlement, it goes up to building level 3, right? So it's a little bit of a, it's not a waste, but it's a little bit inefficient to build this building in my capital, where my capital can go up to building level 5 or settlement level 5, when I could build it in a minor settlement and therefore gain an extra slot in my capital for higher level buildings, because I want to make maximum use of my slots. So I'm not going to be building this here, but I do want to build it eventually, because skinks are super cute and fun, and they're also good. All right. The other thing you can check out is this button right here. It gives you the overview of your garrison. The Itza faction, led by Gor-Rok, has a very, very good garrison for a level 1 building, and it gets pretty nasty. So this is an easier starting faction, I will say. It's one of the easier starts in the game. Late game, it can't, it's not like it's hard, but he's definitely got an easy start. Late game, he's normal, I guess. You can also see the building browser, which, not something that I'm going to see right now. And you can recruit new lords and new heroes, right? So if I were to go here, building browser, you can see all the buildings here, just all right here for you. Recruiting lords, there's going to be different types of lords you can recruit. I'm not going to do that right now. And heroes. However, heroes, you need special buildings to recruit them, and you have like limits on the number of heroes you can recruit. All right, now I think we can definitely play the game. So the first thing I'm going to do, because he is such a good mage, I'm going to put him into the army. When you put a hero in the army, they have, normally they only have one special thing they can do for your army. Croak has 2 special things. I don't think he does them at the same time, though. I'm pretty sure he only does one or the other. So we're going to have him go in there and replenish our troops, which what that means is that after a fight, when our units are injured, he will help heal them up. He's a wizard. He helps heal them. So now we have Lord Croak in our army. We have Gor-Rok. We have some Saurus shields, Saurus spears with shields, Saurus warriors with shields, and some skinks with javelins, so they throw them. This red ring is like our area of control almost. When you're at war with a faction, you basically have, if you're going to attack them, then you can enter their zone of control, but otherwise you can't go past them. And it's also how far away you have to be be reinforcements in the battle. To bring reinforcements in, you got to make sure they're right outside the ring. This yellow thing you see is like how far I can move. Right here you see the army upkeep of this army, so I'm spending 1,065 gold a turn to keep this army up. Over here you see this shows my movement range, how far I can move right now. If I move a little bit, you can see it goes down. Now I'm at 91% left, right? This shows my character's rank. He is at rank 1 right now. He has no experience at the moment. This is his special weapon. I think I have to bring up a mod here. Yes. So I have a mod that it adds more legendary items to the legendary lords. The game has some RPG elements where you can level up your lords, equip items to them, things like that. So one mod I have adds some more legendary items. This mod has him start off with a mace, so it makes his initial start even easier. So, you could see this icon right here. So if he has more items, it would show up right on this ring. So you could see this icon right here. It shows that right now we have a hero replenishing troops in the army. So that's what that means. This will bring up his character details, which I'll probably do after the battle. And this right here is different stances a lizardman can do. Some of them are pretty basic, so when you have the dash, it's just no stance. It's just they can attack, they can move, whatever. But march stance increases your movement. So like you could see this little dotted line. That's how extra far I could move if I was marching. However, when you're marching, you can't initiate combat. Your troops are tired. And if you get caught marching by the enemy, your troops start the battle tired and you can't retreat. So it's kind of rough. So you want to make sure you're only marching when you know you're safe. Ambush stance, you could basically stand and hide and wait for an enemy army to come by and ambush them. Encampment, which basically allows you to heal your troops up and you stop moving and you just kind of sit there. It makes you more defensible too. Channeling, which is basically you are moving not as far, but it's because you're like, I don't know, gathering your magic. I don't really know the loreful way to explain it. You're moving slower, but you're harnessing magical energy as you move. It's better if you have some wizards in the party, which we do. And then astromancy, which is definitely, I don't think that's available to any other faction. I think this is definitely Lizardman specific. The main thing this does that I like for it is it allows you to see further on the campaign map the following turn. It's like the Lizardmen are looking at the stars, and that means they can see farther. Again, I don't really know the lore way to explain it. Might be some magic involved. All right, so we're going to just stay in normal stance. We're going to go over here. We're going to right-click. And if you hold right click, you can see where you're gonna go. You can hold and like do different paths and see how it's gonna be with your movement. We're gonna go and attack. He ran away, right? However, we can pursue him because we still have the movement to do it. We can pursue him into the trees outside the city of Axolotl. Now, since we're gonna pursue him outside the city, the reinforcements, the garrison of the city, is likely going to run out and join the fight. So we might be fighting two different armies. We can click on his army and see... look at this little rat person. We can see what's in his army. One of the hardest parts about the game is learning... It's not like the game's like super complex just as a game. The complexity comes from all the variety of factions, the variety of units, the strengths and weaknesses, the matchups, the things you got to look out for. That's where the game gets hard. There's just a lot here. So right now, there you have a warlord who's also level 1. You know, you could see all these stats. I'm not going to get too nitty gritty in the stats right now. Clan rats. Which are kind of like their basic infantry unit. However, Skaven, the rat people, don't have very good infantry. So the fact that this has, you know, clan rats and Skaven slaves, which are like their worst infantry, right? Some Skaven slaves with spears. This is not a strong army. It's going to be very numerous, however, but Skaven infantry is not very strong. The Skaven strength comes from their like inventions, like their guns and their motorbikes and all the other crazy stuff the Skaven use. So this is Backback or Bok, the experimenter. I don't know, Backback, whatever. We are going to attack him again. So, right now, we see that there's his army, and there's the garrison, which is more clan rats, more Skaven slaves, and more... Oh, and these are night runners. These are missile infantry, which means they're ranged units. I think they... Are they... I can't remember if they throw stuff or if they sling stuff. I can't remember. Skaven generally have weird ranged units. So on this screen, you see the different armies. You see this bar, it shows the Winds of Magic, which, oh gosh, I forgot I have to talk about magic. Oh, you're fine. We'll have a wizard, so I'll talk about it more in the game. Anyway, talk about it more in the fight. But the Winds of Magic is essentially how much magic I have access to during the fight. Magic is limited. You can run out of it. So it's important to use it well. Right here, you see the balance bar? The game knows that I'm going to crush these guys because the yellow, me, is vastly overpowering the red. This is a battle that you can safely just hit the auto-resolve button, which just basically says, I'm just going to let the computer play this out. It doesn't actually play it out, but like I'm just going to let the computer mathematically decide who's going to win, who's going to lose, what units are going to be damaged, blah, blah, blah. This is an easy fight to do that for. I'm not going to do it, just because this is sort of a tutorial campaign. You can fight the battle. So, you can retreat if you're like, wow, this attack is too intense for me. Help page is that. Quick save, you can hit this button and it creates a little quick save. So it's like, wow, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this fight, and I just, I want the quick save to help me out, and so I can reload it and try it again. That's what that's for. You can also press this button to scout the terrain, for some reason this always takes a little bit of time to load. So the yellow's where we're going to be, the red's where they're going to be, and you can see it's going to have a path. There's going to be trees on the side. But yeah, it's just sort of a basic overlay of like what the map's going to be. Generally, I don't look at this too much unless it's a siege battle. So, we're going to go ahead and press Fight Battle. One thing I will say is that the game is definitely much better if you have an SSD hard drive rather than a normal disk drive. So, I'm loading into this fight. I'm going to load into it fairly quickly. A normal drive might take a little bit longer. So, that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, you can see how many units they have. You might be like, wow, I'm up against like, 1,000 or more people, and I don't have that many people. Like, my army seems so small, but that's the thing. Gor-Rok is a beast. He's an absolute unit of a lizard. And Lord Croak is incredibly strong. Alright. Oh, this is interesting. Alright, so we'll talk about that in a bit. So, this button right here, it says Gamble or Start Deployment. Gamble is... this bar represents the total amount of magic I have access to. The magic filling up the globe is how much I have access to currently. As you use magic, it gets drained from the little globe, and it fills up from this bar. The fuller the bar is, the faster this will fill up. So as you drain the magic bar on the side, the globe fills up much slower. So as the battle goes on, your magic refills at a much slower rate. However, if you have a ton of magic, like late game, you might have a ton of magic in this bar. It might fill up decently fast still. Gamble basically is, wow, I'm only starting out with 14 in my globe. I want to take a chance and see if I can get higher than 14. But there's a chance you could get lower than 14. Just to show you how it's done, 14 I probably would just keep just because it's fine, but you can hit Gamble, and hey, it looks like it paid off a tiny bit. We are up to 16. Not that much better, but it is better. So basically it just grabbed a little bit extra from this bar and put it in the globe. That's all that did. But sometimes it can really hurt you. You could go down to 1. So if you're gambling, man, be careful of that button. Okay, so let's start deployment. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I think that this game is incredibly fun to watch. One of the best things about the battles is just how fun and cinematic they are, considering there's just a bunch of units fighting. Um, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of stats yet. I'll probably save that for later episodes. So let's just kind of have fun with this battle, right? For now, and in later episodes I'll get more into the little strategy that I know. So these are Saurus spears. You can see they look super sick. They look so cool. I love the Lizardmen so much. They're like the coolest faction in the history of factions anywhere. So we have 2 units of Saurus spears, and then we have some units with like clubs. You can see like clubs with like little piercing edges. Oh, we have the skinks. See what skinks look like. They're the like brains of the operation. They build things. They kind of like run society. The Saurus are pretty much bred for war. Like they're just like the lizardmen have spawning pools that they like get born out of, and they come out of these spawning pools in like a group, and usually they there might be special things about the spawning, you know, like different spawnings that are like blessed by their gods, that give them special abilities, which you'll see later in the campaign. Skinks, though, while they're fine fighters, they're definitely like not as hardy as these big guys over here. But they tend to do a lot of the more, you know, they tend to have more of the. Again, they're the brains of the operation. They are the backbone of society. There's some more Saurus clubs or maces, however you want to call it. And back here, we have Gor-Rok himself. He's got some mean, nasty scars on his face. A big jade. I think that's jade. Anyway, jade mace, a big jade shield looks like, with some nice spikes on it. Watching him fight's pretty fun. To give you an idea of the size difference, he's bigger than a normal Saurus. So if I put him up here, oh wait, sorry, I did the wrong thing. You could see this guy's kind of beefy. He's a big boy. He's got a big I don't know what head plate. Anyway, but yeah, he is a bigger guy. He doesn't look that big compared to him, but that's because Slawn, as they're called, that's the lore name for them. They're basically big frogs. He just is a mummified version of one. Yeah, he's got a croaking sort of voice. Hence the name. No, the name is because he is a dead frog, so he croaked. So he's Lord he's Lord Croak. I don't know. So when I click on, so if I click on a unit like Saurus, you see there's no buttons over here and there's no buttons over here because they're just a basic infantry unit. But if I click on Gor-Rok, he has some special abilities he can do. One, because he's a lizardman leader, and one because he has a special weapon. Generally, these will have cooldowns. You can see 60 seconds in the upper right-hand corner. As for both of these, actually. And there's effects, which we'll get into later. No, this fight, we're just going to have fun. And over here, you can see he has special effects as well, and he's got spells. And these spells, as I hover over them, you'll see that they will cost some magic, and it will drain my globe. And this one I can't even do because it costs 20, and I don't have 20. He starts with some really powerful, like... you don't need to get in there. Hey, don't scratch the carpet. So, what is happening here? You can see this line, this yellow line, this big yellow box. That's the zone that we can deploy in. Over here we have a red box. That's the zone the enemy can deploy in. There are some units that have Vanguard deployment, which means they can deploy closer or in like certain flanking spots. We don't have any of those at the moment. Back here we have this red button. That's where their reinforcements are coming in. So they're coming from the front and the back. When this happens, there are a couple different ways to approach this. Generally, though, since the reinforcements tend to come in right away, in this scenario, not always. It's situationally dependent, but I generally tend to just meet the reinforcements, take care of them, and then take care of the main force, because they're going to be much further behind. And we'll just go ahead and get a kind of a basic boxy battle line formation here. We're going to put Gor-Rok at the front, because he leads at the front. He is a very tanky, very tanky guy. Gor-Rok, are you facing the wrong way, man? The enemy is that way. There are... I may talk about... maybe I should probably talk about it at some point, but I may do a separate video talking about how to control your troops. No, it shouldn't be a separate video. I'm going to do it right now. So, at least the basics. I won't be able to get everything. So let's use the skinks as an example. I can click and move them around, right? Just right-clicking. Whereas the left-click you select. And I could also click and hold and drag them. So you can see their formation changes. I can change them into a line like this. I can drag them out real wide like this. And I can kind of do anything in between, right? You can also... So anytime you move them, you can, like, you know, do different things, right? Anyway. When I hold spacebar, you can see their range that they can throw their javelins. It also highlights how tired they are. The green legs means they're not tired. They're fresh, right? It also shows their morale. Units can run away if they get scared or if they're losing. It also shows their missile infantry. The orange bar that you see below, like right above the green legs right here, it shows how much ammo they have. The javelins don't have a lot of ammo. When you are deploying your troops, you can also hold Alt, left click, and you can see I can just kind of move them in formation. This works even if you have groups. So if I click my left click and drag, I can hold Alt and move them back and forth like this, to the side, to the other side, and they stay in formation. So it's a very nice way if I've got, so let's say I have them, back here, right? And that's where I deployed. And then the battle starts and I want to move them up to here. I could just do this and they will move all the way over there, get in this formation, right? While you're holding Alt, you can also hold left control as well and rotate the entire formation like this, right? So boom, you just rotated them and now they're on the hill. Now obviously when you're doing this in the fight, they won't instantly teleport there. They'll have to move there in that formation. So if I want to move them back, just rotate them again, right? Holding Alt and the left control, and then I can just boop, 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 put them right there. Other things you can do, there's a lot of buttons down here. This toggles the unit speed, which I'm pretty sure is only when the battle's actually started. Basically, it's if you want them walking to their destination or running. Generally, by default, you always have them running. You could change that in the game settings. I think always running is fine, but you can micromanage that if you really want to. Hard difficulty, I don't know if it's really worth micromanaging. I think I'll be okay. Toggle melee mode. You can, so like, if I were to click on an enemy with the skink, since they're a ranged unit, if they have ammo, instead of them running and attacking them, it'll tell them to just go and shoot them, right? Throw their javelins at them. But if I hold Alt, which I guess you'll see when in an actual fight, I can have them actually just run in and attack. If I click on the unit with Alt, yeah. All right, so other things you could do is you could group. So I could group this whole, all these troops right now. They're in a control group 1, which means if I do 1, I'll move over here. If I put these guys in a group 2, I could go 2, double hit 2, and I go back to them, double hit 1, I go back to them, right? So it's an easy way to, like, you know, go in between your troops using your keyboard. Hotkeys. Right now, if I were to have these guys grouped and I wanted them to basically stay in this formation while they moved, walk all at a speed that everyone could keep up with, I could group this formation, toggle it, lock it in place with this button right here. And that means I don't have to hold Alt and Control. I could just click and drag, and now they're going to stay in this formation. Wherever I put them, they're just in this formation, right? When they move, they will stay in this formation. Fast units will slow down to keep up with the slowest unit in the formation. When I attack somebody, if I have them all highlighted and I attack one unit, right? If I click to attack one unit, they will not just attack that one unit. They will kind of move forward and attack the unit that makes the most sense to them. Whereas if I don't have them grouped and I select all these units and hit and attack one unit, they will all go towards that unit. It'll be all almost my entire army against one unit. Different things to keep in mind. There's different scenarios where, that matters. The main strategy you'll see me do is using Gor-Rok's just beefy boy, protein-heavy tankiness, having the rats surround him, and then using this guy, the wizard, to blow everything up. His spells do not have friendly fire, which is unusual. Usually spells have friendly fire. He is very careful. Or just really powerful. Probably that one. So when I use a spell, even on my own troops, it will only hit enemy troops. So that's another reason why this faction's decently easy for beginner, because you don't have to worry about friendly fire, at least when you're using this guy. Other wizards, you have to worry about friendly fire. But this guy in your main army, you don't have to worry about that. So he's a little bit more forgiving. All right, so one thing I will say, you can see the balance power right here, is that when you are starting out the game, first of all, don't be afraid to play the game on easy difficulty. I started on normal, and essentially what happened, so playing the game for the first time, started on normal, and what happened was I just lost over and over and over again until I got it down, which was fine. It worked for me. I had still a lot of fun, but easy difficulty is perfectly fine to start off with, or just to play in general. It's not like it's a big deal what difficulty you play on. It's just for fun. So, to show you some other buttons, I forgot to show you because I was so focused on grouping, I don't really need this one right now. This one right here, guard mode. If you click this, you'll see the shields come over them. What this means is that they won't pursue enemies super far. If enemies run away from them, they'll kind of like stay in the zone that they're in. That's pretty much what that means. They're not gonna like, they're gonna mostly stay in the area that you put them in. On ranged units, you'll see toggle fire at will if you want them to fire at will, if you want to control it. Usually I keep fire at will on, it's not a big deal. It can matter in some cases to turn it off, though, because there is friendly fire in the game. Even with archers, even with cannons, it's all friendly fire is a thing for the most part. That's the rule. Like, he's the exception to the rule, not having friendly fire in his spells. There's also a button called Skirmish Mode. If I toggle it, what that means is that when enemies come close, they'll automatically run away. I generally like to keep it off and then just kind of manage that myself, unless we're talking about horse cavalry units, which the lizardmen don't really have any, so it's not really something that comes into play with me, at least when I play them. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start the battle. One thing also, these buttons appear in the top right. You can see I can pause the battle, right? Now you can't pause on like harder difficulties, but whatever. So I can pause the battle, and I could take I could like take time to like, okay, what am I going to do? And I could put a bunch of orders in, right? So like, let's say I wanted to take these guys and put them right here, right? And it'll while it's paused, it'll show me that it's going to move over there. I can hold spacebar and see where they're going to move. I could put in slow motion, right? So things are happening, but it's slow motion. And then there's play, fast forward, and then like super fast forward. If I scroll out enough, it'll go to tactical mode, which generally I don't use too much. There's a big overhead view, so you can kind of see the positioning of everything. I don't usually use this too much, though. I like to watch stuff. If I hit K, it'll get rid of all the interface, and I can zoom in and like see the oh gosh, where are you? Come back. Look at how pretty this guy is. These little frog legs. Anyway, so that's a K will get rid of the interface and let you like enjoy a cinematic experience. If I hover over a unit, I could see, Night Runners is the missile infantry. You can see this little red ring shows where they can fire. They are a medium threat to me. The game's basically saying these are higher tier troops than the rest of the army. They're you know, they're more of a problem. You can see they're fresh and they're eager. They're not like discouraged or anything. They're willing to fight. You can see that there's 90 models in the unit. I shouldn't say models. I say models because this is a tabletop game as well with models. I actually don't want to move my skinks up there, by the way. I'm going to just kind of move them back. So pausing a game, I'm going to pause a lot. It's not a big deal. You know, people that are really good at the game, play at harder difficulties, don't pause, and it's like, I'm not that fast, so, you know. All right. So we're going to have these reinforcements coming in. I'm not going to be worried about matchups too much. What I'm going to do is I'm just to show you how strong Gor-Rok is, I'm going to send him forward by himself, right? He's going to run forward. He's going to charge straight into these guys. These guys, I could probably throw my javelins. I'm going to have these units look to engage here. Actually, no, they're going to engage here. I'll send these units forward because I don't need to send Gor-Rok by himself necessarily. They're going to run over here, and then I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to have them flank like this. So these units are going to run around and flank. It's about time I should be thinking about casting my first spell. You're going to see how stupid powerful these spells are. So I'm going to cast this spell right here. You can see, oh, it's going to hit my own units. So you'll see the countdown as he's preparing the magic. Then the magic is prepared, but now it's got to charge up, and watch what happens. Boom! Look at that. Their health bars are gone. Leadership, which is their white bar, is just completely gone. And now that white flag shows that they're retreating, right? They're like, oh no, screw this. They have a crazy wizard. So I'm going to do the same thing right here. This is the smaller version of it, a little bit less damage, but I'm going to put it right here. And that's essentially how you beat the... Oh, I don't need you guys running off like this. So that's essentially how you beat the Skaven. At least early levels, is you just get them grouped up against your battle line, and then you use Lord Croak. You cast some big spells. We're going to not worry about the Night Runners too much. We're going to take some missile damage from them, but instead what we're going to do... Oh, important. So right here, you see that there's a skull and a flag. It means that they are... So if it's just a flag, there's a chance they could regroup and rejoin the fight. A skull and a flag means they are running off the map. They're done. They're not coming back. All right, we should probably think about getting back in formation. Oh, wait, I should show you this right here. So this shows that we're hidden. This unit right here is in the trees. It's hidden. They cannot be seen by the enemy. Oh, gosh, I need to reform my lines. All right, so let's go ahead and reform my lines real quick. So we'll put spears in front. We'll put some clubs. We'll put one on the flanks right here. We'll put another one back here in reserve. Lord Croak needs to turn around. We'll put him right there. And then Gor-Rok needs to run forward like this. He needs to get back in the action. Did I? All right. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and... the Night Runners are going to run out of ammo pretty soon. Let's go ahead and send Gor-Rok to go duel the enemy lord. Bak Bak! Bak Bak the Experimenter. We're going to have Gor-Rok run at him. We're going to keep our lines right here. Let's go ahead and have these guys charge in right on this side. We're going to charge the lord right here with these guys. We're going to charge in right here. And then with these guys in reserve, we're going to do kind of the same thing. We're going to come in around and go for a flank attack right here. And the skinks. Oh, I forgot about the skinks. We're going to go ahead and move them over. We're going to move them over here. Lord Croak is going to use this ability right here. Supreme Shield of the Old Ones. It just gives some damage resistance. We're going to just put it right over these guys. The big force field is going to come into play, and it's going to help these guys take less damage. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast a big spell right here. Because why not? We're going to have the skinks kind of get some nice flanking shots. Oh, we've got to watch this. Boom! I'm sorry. I love casting that spell. And yeah, they're just done. They're just absolutely done. They're going to run off. These guys might regroup. So it's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to have these charge them. We're going to have these guys reform the line over here. The skinks, we're going to move closer. Maybe get some more shots off. They'll automatic... Oh, they ran out of ammo. I wasn't paying attention. So we're going to have them instead. We're going to have them come for a flank right here. I'm not casting nearly enough magic, which is fine. Again, this is not a super hard fight, so I'm not going to be Harder fights, I'm going to probably have to spend more time thinking about it more. We're just going to... Oh, they're going to... So we see the leadership dropping dramatically across the board. And you see everyone's just chain routing, right? And it's victory, right? The reason why that happened is that the enemy realized we are not going to win here. Like, this is a problem. And this can happen on your side as well. Your troops may be like, we're not going to win this, and they may just start all running like that, where the army just routs in general. Oh, we killed the enemy lord. Strategically, that's actually kind of a bad thing, but that's a little bit more advanced, I guess. But, so, one thing you can do after a battle is you can chase people off. We don't have any fast cavalry or anything, so we're probably not going to be able to catch anybody. I'm surprised that we even caught the Lord. I don't know how we did. So, like, right now, these guys are chasing, but we don't need to have them chase. We don't have anybody chase. We could just end the battle right now. But before I do, I just want to show one thing. This ability, Lizardmen, they can rampage, which means while they're fighting, they can, like, give into their primal instincts, and they're just going to just go ham. They're just going to just attack and attack and attack, and you can't control them. They're just not going to listen to you. That's why Lizardmen leaders, lords, and heroes will have this ability called Cold-Blooded, which basically you do it, you click on it, and they'll calm them down. Like, no, 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 come on, guys. We need to think about tactics, right? So Lord Croak has it too. He could use it as well. You don't have to use it when they're rampaging. It also just gives some more leadership. You know, it's like almost like a rallying cry, right? Oh, another thing, just like a little tip. This shield, you can see, it will snap to a unit, right? But maybe you don't want it to snap to a unit. Because, like, let's say, just to show an example, let's say Gor-Rok was a little bit out. So, let's say I really wanted to get Gor-Rok, but maybe it just kept on snapping, right? I'm like, no, I want to get Gor-Rok, and it kept on snapping. You can hold Alt and do this. And you put it there, and boom. You cover both of them. Same thing with spells. Sometimes a spell will snap. You can hold Alt to move it freely. Right now, obviously they're not snapping now because it snaps on an enemy unit. But if they're enemy units here, it might snap. I can't remember if these snap or not. But some spells snap, and you could hold Alt and make it not snap. I think that's it. Oh, we'll also go over this ability right now. This is like, I can't remember if this is from a mod or if this is like in the vanilla game. But anyway, has a 60-second cooldown. I didn't use it in the fight because I just wasn't thinking about it. But for 24 seconds, you can click it, targets himself. It gives him 44% physical resistance, which just makes him even harder to kill from physical damage. So like magical damage, this doesn't really... he'll still get hurt by that by a lot. But it also gives him some vigor, so it's basically like he's catching his breath. So I activate it, you know, he's doing his thing. It only recharges if he's engaged in melee. So if he's not in a fight, this will not recharge. The 60-second cooldown will just stop until he gets back into melee. Alright. I think that's everything to talk about right now, so let's end the battle. It'll show that we had a decisive victory, which was expected. It was going to be a decisive victory pretty much no matter what. This is an easy first fight, one of the easier campaigns to play if you're new to the game. But there are other easy factions, good starter factions. Then there are factions that are really hard that you probably don't want to learn the game on. Something like Skarsnik. He's a little goblin guy. I love Skarsnik. His campaign is really hard. So definitely probably wouldn't start that as a newer player. Okay, so this screen, I hope it doesn't end too fast. You can see Lord Croak got 253 kills. The Thesaurus got 149, that's pretty good. Gor-Rok only got 37, but, you know, he's one guy. He still beat out this group of Saurus. Skink's got 41 kills, that's pretty good. Yeah. Over here, you can see they didn't get a lot of kills. 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, 4. His Warlord got 10. And you can see, like, how we damaged them. So I'm going to talk real quick about why it was kind of bad we killed the Warlord. Armies in this game need a Lord. Since we killed the Lord, they're going to have to recruit a new Lord kind of from their ranks, and that means they're going to get a new Lord with a full HP bar, right? So in this instance, killing the Lord may have been problematic because... Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's not problematic. I'll explain why. So it would have been problematic if they didn't retreat the first time. So let's say they didn't retreat the first time and we fought them and we killed the Lord, then they would retreat after that fight, with their losses, recruit a new Lord at full HP, and boom, um, we have now got to deal with a fresh Lord, right? Um, but since they retreated that first time, what that meant was that, and we, how we followed them, that meant that after this fight, even though we see, oh no, they still got some troops left, they don't. What's going to happen is this entire army is going to be just killed. We've cornered them, essentially, is what that meant. You can't just infinitely retreat. The game stops that. So it's like, they retreated the first time, we caught up with them, we fought again, they lost, their entire army's gone. The garrison, however, will still be there, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it gets rid of that. So every faction has different things they can do after a fight. We can release the captives, gain some gold. It reduces how quickly our troops replenish if we do that, though. We could execute the captives, exterminate the vermin, and we get 100 XP for all units. Even basic units level up. They don't level up with like skills and items and stuff like that. They level up just with stats. So it's like you'll see different ranks. There's like bronze, silver, gold. So like and they have 3 ranks of each. So like gold 3 is the highest a unit can be. And when units rank up, they get. You are very loud, Gor-Rok. All right. So when units get to like gold, they have much better stats. The other thing we could do is we could kill and eat them. Because lizardmen kill and eat things too, because they're big lizards. If we do that, our units will be replenished by 8%, as you can see on the screen. So if I take it off that, you can see we have some gaps right here. This will basically say, no, we're going to just eat all these rats and get back to full health, right? We're going to replenish our troops. This is situational on what you want. It depends on the situation. I'm going to go with the XP because I don't necessarily think we need to heal right now, but healing is definitely not bad because now we're back to full strength. But I'm going to go with the XP. I want to level up my Lord as quickly as possible. So we're going to... And plus, we want to exterminate him, although this would kill him as well. So I guess either one's flavorful. We're definitely not selling him. So, we got rid of the army. You can see it's not there anymore. Bak, the Experimenter, the Lord of Legend, has been killed. You can see that we have a little yellow arrow of our army. Oh, you also see this bar on the side. An army can only have a maximum of 20 units, including the Lord and Heroes. So that bar signifies how like full the army is. We have 7 out of 20 right now. The yellow arrow shows that Gor-Rok has leveled up. You can see he's level 2, and you can see his experience. It goes around in a bar right there. So if we click on that button, right, we click on that button, it will take us right to his skills. You can see his full skill tree. If we click on this button, it takes us to character details. You can see his items, his like followers and banners, his traits, things like that. We didn't go over his traits. I'll talk about that in a second. And this will cycle through different Lords and Heroes. Right now, I have Gor-Rok and Lord Croak, right? And from here, you can also go back and forth between these two. It also shows his stats, things like that. I have to talk about decent amount of mods right now, just so you guys are aware. One of the mods I have adds a little respec button right here because I want to be able to respec characters sometimes, so I can just click it and I get all my points back. That's not in the vanilla game. In the vanilla game, they have this button, which is it resets the skill points before you confirm it. Like, let's say you pick something like, wow, I don't want that. You could click this button and get the point back, right? Another mod I have adds some more skill points. It adds, I don't remember exactly how many it adds, but for the first few levels, like first certain amount of levels, it adds extra skill points at the beginning. There's a level cap for characters. It is 40. So my mod doesn't change that. Generally, you only get 1 skill point per level. My mod just gives you more skill points in the beginning, and then it goes back to 1 skill point per level. The reason why I have this mod is because there are some extra skills that are added from some mods, which I'll talk about in a second. And also, I just kind of like Lords to feel, pretty powerful. There are some mods out there that add like enough points to get literally everything. I don't really care for those because I like there to be at least some choice on what you want. I want there to be some trade-off, right? but I did want basically some extra points. That's what this gives. It'll front load the points in the beginning. And the other mod I need to talk about is the items. The new items, they get unlocked at certain levels that the mod adds, and you have to put a point to get the item. In the vanilla game, the items that the special items that your lord has are generally locked behind quests. You can see this like these chains right here. This is one of the one in the vanilla games is shield, right? It is locked behind a special quest that you have to go do this mission, and then you can get your shield. That's how items work normally. These just add additional items that your lord can get if they put points in. So there's a few different lines here. There's the blue line, the red line, the yellow line, and then like the special skills up top. Basically the blue line's utility, right? It's like I want the Lord to have a lot of utility. It's going to be things like maybe his army costs less, maybe he's better at ambushing, maybe he recruits units at a higher rank, maybe he has better casualty replenishment. His troops heal up quicker. Maybe he's really good at getting rid of corruption or increasing public order. That kind of stuff. Blue lines are generally very good choices if you don't know what to do, because they have some very like lightning strikes, a very good skill that like you may want on almost all of your lords, depending on the faction. So this isn't, you can't really go wrong here. I'm probably not going to focus too much on the blue line. I'm pretty much going to do a little bit of red. Red line is like army-wide buffs for certain units. So like if you have, what your army composition is going to be, you can choose skills to buff those units. So it makes them a better general, essentially. The yellow line makes them better fighters. That's what we're going to focus on because he's the people's champ. He is Dwayne the Rock Johnson. And he is going to get in, get dirty, That being said, so we have 3 skill points to spend. Normally you'd only have 1, but my mod front loads some extra skill points. That being said, I generally recommend getting Route Marcher pretty much on every lord because it increases your campaign movement range, which is so helpful. It is so helpful. It really sucks when you can't reach an enemy that is retreated. I also am probably going to get the Inspiring Presence, which increases his leadership aura. So all lords and heroes have an aura where they like boost up the leadership of your troops. So keeping them around your troops allows your troops to like see your heroes fighting and make them fight harder. However, if your lord or hero dies, that's they lose some leadership because they see you're down. So it's this is a good one to have because it makes him more inspiring, and he has an inspiring presence on the battlefield. He should be. And we're going to take the first one in the yellow, so we're just going to do a nice little just first one in the tree, but then we're going to go pretty much into mostly yellow, but we're probably going to do red first. Red's a good tree, especially if you have a certain army composition you're going to use early. Red's a good tree to like focus early on because it just buffs your entire, not your entire army, but it buffs a good amount of units in your army. We're going to get this one, gives some extra charge bonus and weapon strength. Just do a quick rundown on the stats and special abilities. I'm not going to go super in depth. I don't actually know all the ins and outs of the game when it comes to this, but you have health here, hit points, right? Armor, how resistant a unit is to missile fire and melee attacks, how much damage they reduce. Leadership, basically how likely they are to stay and fight or run. Speed, how quick they are. Gor-Rok is not fast. He's not going to be fast ever because he does not get a mount. He trudges along the battlefield. That's sort of his weakness. He can't catch up to a lot of people. Melee attack is basically the chance that they will actually hit. So when you watch the fighting, which I probably should have done more of that first fight, when you watch the fighting, if you see a unit like land a blow, it means they actually hit. When if you see a miss, it's like, oh, they missed. So it's like sort of what you see is what you get, which is kind of cool about the game. His melee attack's good, 45. Melee defense is really good. He is a tanky lord. He's got a big shield. He's a beefy boy. And he is very good at blocking attacks. Um, his weapon strength is basically when he hits, how hard he hits, 450, really good. You could see there's like weapon damage and then armor piercing damage. Basically, a certain amount of his damage just ignores armor. That's what that means. Charge bonus is when you actually tell him to attack an enemy and he runs at him and attacks, that he gets a bonus to his melee attack and damage when he's charging. There's some icons next to it that shows that he has armor piercing damage right here, and this shows that he is shielded. So units that are shielded block missiles better. He has a silver shield, which means he will block 55% of all small arms missile fire, so not artillery, from hitting from the front. So when he runs at an enemy, you'll see him hold his shield up, very Captain America, and he blocks 55% of all missiles. They just boom, boom, boom. So that's sort of the difference between, you'll see there'll be like Saurus warriors with spears and then Saurus warriors with spears and shields. Pretty much the only difference there is that the ones with shields are going to be better at dealing with missiles. Then you have a bunch of like special things down here. So ward save 5%. It just means that any damage is going to be reduced by 5%. Any damage against him reduced by 5%. Just that's what a ward save is. Physical resistance. Any physical resistance is reduced by 15%. Non-magical attacks. Missile resistance. Damage of missile attacks is reduced by 15%. So he's very tanky, especially at the start. Magic resistance, 5%. All damage of magical attacks. So you can see what these are. Very simple. Resilience. He's immune to certain attrition, which is when you're moving on the campaign map. There's different areas on the map that may like hurt your army moving through, like a mountain pass or like maybe a harsh ocean. He is immune to swamp and desert attrition, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Expert charge defense just means when he's standing still and people charge him, he is going to negate their charge bonuses. He is the Rock. He is the people's champ. So, he doesn't have to worry about that. Encourage basically provides a leadership bonus, the thing I talked about. He can hide in the forest. That's all that means. He's immune to psychology, which means that he fear and terror. No, it doesn't affect him. He laughs in the face of fear. This is a little like passive ability that activates once his hit points go below half. Gives him some extra leadership and melee attack. Just a little passive thing that's just like, oh crap, I'm taking some damage, and then he just fights harder, because that's how Gor-Rok is. Cold-blooded, that's the ability I showed you earlier, and then Rakovitsa, that's the ability I showed you earlier as well. The actives that I did in the battle. One thing I want to talk about real quick is that every legendary lord has some traits that they have, and even lords have traits. They're usually going to be weaker traits than legendary lords. He provides +5 melee defense when hit in our own or in friendly allied territory, and that is for his entire army. So anytime we're fighting in our territory or in allies' territory, we have +5 melee defense for the entire army. So it's a good buff. Physical resistance, 20% when defending sieges. So anytime someone is sieging us, his army has 20% physical resistance in that siege. So if he is the one leading the siege defense, it's a massive buff for the entire army. And then his personal hit points are increased by 15%. I think that might have come from a mod. That was like the little thing they gave him. His mace, which he doesn't actually have yet. He didn't have it during that last fight. You can see it takes one turn to get there, and we are still on the first turn. Turns will go faster as after I explain things. This will give him +8 melee attack, +15% weapon strength, and enables magical attacks, which means his attacks will no longer be treated. I don't know if they will not be treated as physical or if they're also treated as magical. Anyway, but he will have magical attacks now. So they go past physical resistance. It also gives him extra untainted in the local province, so wherever he's at will be better at fighting against chaos. And then it gives him the active ability Mace of Ulamok. which is another buff, 120-second cooldown, 24-second duration. It only targets himself, gives him plus 40% armor piercing damage, plus 44 melee attack, and plus 40% weapon damage. I know that if you're new to the game, you don't really know what this means, but those are some big buffs. They only last for 24 seconds, but if you pop that right before a charge on like an enemy lord, that's going to be some massive damage. All right. So we've already leveled him. Oh, we didn't choose the predatory fighter. Boom. You can see as we do that, like his stats go up. So like if we were to reset the skill points for this level, see 450, we do that, it shows we're going to be at 35 instead of 30 and 473 instead of 450. So if we click that, boom, now it's part of us. All right. So let's go ahead and confirm that. So we have leveled him up. These little colors represent like how far he's gone into the trees. So we are split evenly right now into yellow, blue, and red. But as we go on, that blue is going to shrink and that yellow is going to dominate. So we have enough to take the city of Axolotl. Maybe Croak does give both casualty replenishment and training. I don't know if that's a visual bug or if he does actually give both. Training basically means that every turn he's going to be giving experience to the army, but that could be a visual bug. I don't know why I see that, because I chose replenishment. That's definitely there. I don't know. But another thing we see is that we have 100 experience for all units because we killed captives. That's why you see that buff here. We also can see this little like green thing with a dash through it. We are not replenishing our units right now because we are not in friendly territory. We're in foreign territory. If we were in friendly territory, if I moved back here, we would start replenishing our units. We have enough to take the city of Axolotl. However, I think this is a good spot to end it for the first episode. It's been a pretty long first episode. Other episodes may not be as long as this, but I did a lot of explanation. Again, sorry that it moves so slow for anybody who is actually familiar with the game, but this is for people who don't know much about it at all. So as we move on through the campaign, though, there's going to be it's going to move a lot faster. It's not going to be one turn per video. That is not how we're going to do. And some turns may go really fast because maybe you don't have a fight. Maybe you're just kind of waiting for something, so I may hit next turn a couple times. That's kind of how strategy games are. All right, so let's go ahead and save it right here. And we're going to name this one just Itza. This will be our save. And because this is for a YouTube campaign, and I want to make sure that it doesn't get, we're going to do Itza copy. So we have two different saves. And we have the quick save as well, I guess. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video when we take the city of Axolotl against the Skaven Menace in an attempt to reunite the province of Itza.